cut because I may not do the same door next. And it just puts me right where I need to be. 3/16. My measurements are from that screw to that screw.
From that screw where you see the black line to that screw where you see the black line.
Right.
And that's
same,
gonna be the rough cut.
Yep, that's gonna be my rough cut from there to there. And when I make my cut, I hold the inside of the line. It's because I don't want my hole to be excessive. Is very standoffish, so I had to get a visual on where that dog was, look at something he was standing next to, and I know he's right here.
Okay.
So I'm able, because there's no way I can get near that dog to measure it.
Gotcha.
I know where I need to be. So I always, even though the customer may measure, normally it's wrong, which is Now, the reason I use tape is I'm not marking the wall, but it also gives me a really visual of where my studs are. And that way I can figure out how I'm going to go, where it's going to place. So when I'm looking at, this is a non-load bearing stud that's right here. I have load bearing here, I have load bearing here. There's an extra stud there that doesn't even need to be. The only thing this stud is doing is literally they attached a box to it. So a lot of times I'll make this decision on whether I'm headering this or not. And there's always, because I know there's no load here, I've already looked at the truss line, but also, and because that is, all that load is on this side because it's shooting out for the patio cover. When I cut the stud, I know immediately as I'm cutting whether there's any load on that stud or not, because my blade will bind. So that always tells me, even when I'm doing a load bearing stud that I have to cut, do header jack studs, I get a sense of how much load's on there by when I'm cutting, to whether I need to support it at that point or not. But yeah, so we're gonna lay this out, drill a 4.5 inch hole so I can reach up in there and see. And this is my "what were you thinking" hole, because even though I think I know what's there, this is why I do this, because sometimes you run into stuff you never know. Stud here, normally I would, if doing a header, I would do my jack stud on this side, but I already know I have a box here. I have wire coming up, so I can't get that across there. So I would actually have to come up here and build this out.
Well, the other thing you could do is probably attach it to this side, right? Or is there not
I can attach, and there again, good possibility, I could have wire coming down this one too.
Oh, I see.
Which I can move out of the way, depending upon where it goes, because it's going to feed this receptacle and on down there. So they're in a very short space here. I probably have a lot going on. But
that's why that hose saw is reaching your hand in there. You really got to do it with every single job.
I've tried every meter there is. None of them really work as anticipated. One instance, I checked the outside, checked the roof line. It wasn't even near the kitchen. It was probably 15 feet away from the kitchen on the wall. Went out, checked the ridge line, saw a vent stack coming up at least 8 feet over here. Checked the wall, found nothing in the wall. Hole sawed it, fortunately, and I had a PVC vent pipe coming up. It came up and 45'd over, so that's what I mean about you never know. What were you thinking? Do that. The reason I use these, they're washable. I might have to throw them away. These are literally, I think this one is 6 years old. The other one is at least 8. I'm able to tape it up. That way I catch a lot of the dust. Even though I'm going to get a little bit, there's no way around it. It keeps my work area pretty remove the insulation, because you got to make sure, because a lot of times when they're running electrical, the insulation guys will actually split the insulation and put it over the wire, and all of a sudden you reach your hand up in front of or behind the insulation and you can't feel it. So that way also I'll run my hand up and down the stud, and that way I can tell if I have any wires coming through there, and I do not. It's full. So I have no wire, I have no obtrusions in the way.
Perfect.
There's that stud right there. So what I'm going to do now is actually lay out my door. I'm going to cut my door.
That's about right.
Yep, right where I wanted to go. Well, look well, I'm so handsome it can't take it.
Is that it?
That's it.
I think it was actually screaming in pain. Just kidding.
Yep, blurred lines. Okay, the reason I start, I don't start in the corner, is when I pop this, I don't want to break out this corner. The other reason I use this, you can use a jigsaw, you can use a all-purpose saw. This makes less dust. So, and what I'm doing there on that cut, that's that stud. Make sure I get all the way through that. You can use a level as well, but this is also how I mark out and try not to write on the wall like I just did. This is how I also mark where I'm going to make my drill. Just like that. And I do that in 3 corners.
That's a good way of getting those.
Yep. You transpose that, because you can't measure from the inside to the outside, though you can off of a stationary object such as a window. If I needed to really transpose from the outside to the inside, there again, this is where this comes in. I know I have the same on the outside. That window is going to be pretty square. I mean, you could double check it as far as level goes, but I know I can actually transpose whatever measurement here I want from here to the outside. If it was a long wall, yeah, you can't.
You can't.
Nothing's square in this house.
Yeah, so it's better just to square it out with
do
the
it
corners.
this way, and this is a stucco job. So there's you have to take your time on it, because a lot can go wrong. I mean, if you take your time, that's why really particularly you guys that are going out and doing your own bids and going on site, take a look at the stucco, see if there's cracks, see the condition of that stucco. In a spot underneath, just check it. Does it flake off? If it's a bad stucco job, have the conversation with the customer. You're not responsible. You're going to do your best job that you can do, but you're not responsible for what happens or walk away from the job. Trust me, you can't match that color. Mm-hmm. And you might as well just hire a company to come out and do it, because it's going to cost you less money. And I have a decision to make on. All right, I've got stud here, load bearing here, stud here, load bearing stud here. We're going to find out what this stud's all about right now. So, and I'm going to determine here in a minute what I've got load bearing on, which I know I have 0 load bearing on this. That's just years in the trade. And I've got so much going on here. This is basically holding drywall screws is what it's doing. It has no value as far as hold. So if I was going, and I still don't know, I'm going to come up. My studs are 5.5 inches. I'm going to come up to 6.5 inches. I'm going to make a level. I'm going to take my skill saw and I'm going to cut right here. And the reason I do that with the skill saw, just in this area, because this is the only hole I'm going to make, instead of opening all this up and having to even over here and having to have somebody come in and retape it, I'm going to make a very small slit right here. When I make that cut with the skill saw, the reason I do that, that gives me a basically a guide when I stick my sawzall in that I can follow and be level across. I'm going to show you down here how I cut this, and the same thing applies to this. This is stucco on the outside. I can't be hammering a lot on that ply because I can actually crack the stucco on the outside. So you have to be really cautious. So let me get a sawzall. We'll go ahead and whack that. We'll see what kind of load we got on this stud, and we'll know where to go from here.
Perfect.
Okay. So, all right. New blades on stuff like this is really not an option. I mean, I know you can get through it with an old blade, but it's a huge difference on having a new blade anytime you're doing stuff like this. All right, so. Okay. All right, so I know I have zero load on this. All right, so the way I'm doing this is I can feel, I'll demonstrate up here. Just feel this blade tapping that wall. Don't push it, don't let it go through, because there again, even if it was a lap side, you could possibly cut through the outside siding, but I'm just feeling that going through. All right, let's cut this top. Let's get this out of the way. I have and I hate just abandoning this in there because it's just, why they would put this here is beyond me. It has no reason to be here.
Because it's not in a good
nobody
location.
would ever put a TV here.
You wouldn't put a TV there.
So if this was in a
anything else.
spot over there to where a TV might go or something like that, I've got to cut in an old work cut-in box. I would cut in and stick this out, but on this we're probably just going to abandon it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, even if we do go with the header and the jack stud, I'm still going to cut this here because that way I get this out of the way and I'm only dealing with a small piece right here.
How did you know that there was no bearing on that because it didn't pinch your blade?
It didn't pinch my blade.
Okay.
Literally, there's no load on this whatsoever. If you've got load on even on a single stud like this or a double load bearing stud, you'll find, and in some cases, you almost can't, if it's a lot of load, you almost can't get your blade out. It's really tough. But on stuff like this, it'll pinch the blade even a little bit, but as you saw in cutting, it's zero on this one. And then I'm going to do the same up top here. So, yeah, see, we're still, I mean, I can still run the blade through.
Yeah, and
so,
he wouldn't be able to push that blade through there if it was load bearing.
It would come down and settle. So
yeah.
There's just so much going on here. Two things: it saves you time on doing it, but you have to really look at all aspects of what the truss line is doing, and is there any load on this, and then make that decision from there. I've got a lot going on here. The fact that I can't get over to this stud to put my jack stud against, I'd have to build a double here, then come over jack stud against this stud, and then do my header there accordingly. But we're going to cut this out and see where we're going to take it from there. All right, what I'm looking for is to double check before I go any further that I absolutely have nothing degraded in this stucco whatsoever, and it looks perfect.
So there's no new cracks
No
or
cracks,
anything.
nothing, no chipping, because at that point I'd have to really, I have to continue, but now I'd stew over it the whole time. So at least, I'd rather know than not know. Once we get this, we're going to drill, and then I'll show you how I drill, how I locate those holes. Then we're going to mark out for the outside, and then we're going to cut that. I'm going to go over how I actually go through it. And the reason I'm pretty stickler on doing it this way, like I just told Dan, you can't do it worse than me. Don't miss any steps that I'm doing. You can do it better, but this can save you thousands of dollars in repairs. So it's just after years of doing it. It's a system I came up. It may not be perfect, but it works. All right, let's get this top cut. There again, I'm starting my cut off of this backer board, and then I'll slowly move the saw in and make my way cutting. Okay, all right. So now comes the fun. You have to be really careful on beating this. So as you can see, we've got nothing here. All right, now I'm gonna... Okay. I don't want to, what I may do is particularly because the construction workers aren't paying for, and pretty much all they're using now are staples. They're not paying for them. And oh my God, it's like every 6 inches. I mean, double staples. So some cases I'll come in there with a metal blade and cut right down there so that it's not
Right along the,
right. Actually, I'm
the
going
outside of that.
yeah, I'm actually going to do it, even though I don't think I need to. Let me just. So I'm lightly tapping and I'm pushing on this board, just trying to get me a gap in there. Okay.
For your blade?
Yeah, let me get a metal blade. And the reason I'm using a different blade is, one, this is really flexible, allows me to get up in there, but also it's very fine teeth. This will cut nails, but the problem is it's ripping a lot, so this is a lot smoother of a cut. Okay. Now that I know that I don't need this plug, I'll throw it away. So if I reached in there, forget that, and decided that I'd have to come in, let's say that it wouldn't work here because I found something that I wasn't anticipating. I'd have to put a piece of wood here and a piece of wood there, put this back in, clean up the edges a little bit, put this back in, screw this, put a piece of wood, a short piece of wood across there, then I would be able to put this plug back in, and voila, tape it, and I'm done.
Be a quick fix for
Absolutely.
if it didn't work out, if there was something in there that you couldn't anticipate that was,
I think,
especially in places where there's seismic stuff, where you got hold down straps and in the California regions and in
this can have like you said, hold down straps. And I only running it one time. Fortunately, I had made my I was able to move my cut over and get beyond where I could make that cut here. Yeah, that's why I have this hole. I was coming up on 1,000 doors. I've had 2 times that I could not go where I wanted to go. So generally, I suck at drywall. So when I open this thing up, it's going here.
He's already figuring out how to put it back in there without.
I am. So, yeah, I'm big on organization. Everything has a spot. Everything has a place. This is my carry-in. I do everything with this box as far as, except for the tools that I had to bring in to do extra stuff. And there again, it just needs to be as square as it can. It doesn't have to be. So I'm holding it up against the back and sliding it. So now I've created a 90 that tells me where that end is. Same thing here. Hold straight up, straight down, make my mark, and I know my drill point is going to be right there.
Junction of, oh, okay, just above it.
Just above it, because there again, that's the bottom. That line is the bottom of this.
Gotcha.
This line is the edge of this.
Okay.
So I want to be inside of that line and above that line. I don't use any hammer drill function on this. I actually use 2 drill bits. The wood bit to cut the wood, and then a masonry bit.
Gotcha. Just to be safe and not cracking.
This is all about do not push through. This is let it do the work, because if you push through, even when I do this, sometimes I get a chip out. All right, sit right here. That's the wood. This out, but take the extra time.
Just to do that masonry bit there.
You can, stucco should always take you longer, because you got to think through everything, take your time. I know you got another one behind this one, but just take your time. And there again, I'm through the wood right there.
You can hear it. You can actually hear the difference in the sound of this.
So let's go outside and look at what we got. We didn't get any pop out, because what happens if you push, as that weakens, this can actually break out. If you save that piece, you can actually glue it back in. I keep super glue or a contact cement glue. Put that back in, because a lot of times, unless it's a huge piece, and then you have to get creative, but you can repair small areas. So
now we do the other 4?
now we do the other 3. I only do 3.
I'm sorry, 3?
Yeah, I don't need 4, because that's going to locate this side and this side.
Okay.
So, and from there I can, in there again, the holes are never absolute, but you just kind of figure, you just kind of guesstimate. I'll show you once we get there.
Again with that masonry drill bit.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was just saying that's the masonry drill bit again, going through all 3 of these corners.
I used to use a larger one, but I've stayed with the smaller now, in the 1/8 inch. It just makes that hole a little smaller and less chance of a bigger breakout. And I choose stuff because of experience.
All right, no pop outs, we're good here. Or just a little teeny one right here, but that'll be covered by the frame of the door. So we got 1 here, 1 here, and 1 up here. And you're putting that back in so that it doesn't bring the dust in?
So much more dust. I use my two writing apparatuses are the Sharpie, and this is a 1.3 Write in the Rain. Get them on Amazon. I get 3 in a pack. Really heavy lead, and it'll mark on anything. Or the Sharpie, and these are the 2 writing things that I carry. When you're using Sharpie on this, you're going to go through a lot of Sharpies, because it eats up the tip, because I try to keep a fine tip, and I buy these literally by the 25 pack, because I go through so many. Once that blunts over, even though it's probably not even an eighth used, I toss it. Because I don't, that blunt tip, it doesn't serve my purpose. I mean, my new, actually, you can talk about this. Okay, so for doing this, once I make my cut, and I got to change that out too, even though that will multi-cut, but this is more for metal. I don't use my new blades out here on anything, actually. Occasionally on just wood, but hardy board, stuff like that, because it heats up the edge of the blades, which is a lot of your cutting surface. So what I'll do, this is one that came, I rotate them. So this one is now starting to get, well, it doesn't want to cut very well, so I actually throw that one away. I'll get a newer old one, and it now becomes my outside blade. I just try to use all of my tools to the best of my ability and keep my costs down, but not hurt myself by time and go, you know, you've used a Sawzall blade that's dull, and it's like, you might as well be using a butter knife. So it's just not worth it. So. This one, which is a multi-cut blade, they're both diamond blades, but this one doesn't tend to cut as well as this, and this is a masonry blade.
So that's the actual masonry.
Yeah, that's an actual masonry blade. But I have multiple metal cutting blades depending upon what I'm trying to cut. So these actually can come in really well on, we've got a unique entry door that's metal. A lot of times you can use this cut off to do one side and then cut the other. Because if you try to cut, I use a skill saw with the metal blade.
Okay. Is that your chef's apron?
Yes, I know I'm a prima donna, but when you got a beard like this,
you don't want to screw it up.
You know, and I'm just trying to keep my clothes because, you know, I like to look. You know, I'm going to tell you, and you take this for what it's worth. Your presentation in front of the customer is everything. On how you lay your tools out, how you look when they answer the door. I like to present myself to the customer as quality, because that's what we're about, is quality, and we want to be paid quality. And I'm going to measure the holes. 13 and a half. 18. A quarter, so we're 16ths over. You really need a dark line to be able to see what you're doing in all this dust and everything. And as you can see, I'm not exactly on the holes, but that gives me locators. And you'd be amazed, that short distance, how far you can get off. That's why I make those. Because you'll see in some of the videos where they've got a level on there and they're holding this. That may be fine for this. But what about this?
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do.
Unless you have two levels on it, you're never going to be...
And you can't.
You can't, anyway. Yeah.
And I tried holding the square up to it. This I found to work. Even though I'm outside there a little bit, I'm able to cover it with my trim and not be out here and have to worry about fixing it. We're 13 and a half inches. And there again, I'm going to try to keep my cut to the inside of the line. And the reason is, if I go center line, then I'm going to continue to open up the cuts on both ways. So you got to know where you're going to cut. And that's why, again, these holes are for references. That's why I use 3. It's one less hole that I can also get out, but it gives me a locating point everywhere I need it.
Gotcha.
And that's why I measure, before I start drawing, I actually measure those to see, okay, I need to scooch this way or this way. Scooch, that's a technical term.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's in the construction.
Yeah.
Should I put it in our definitions?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
scooch.
Scooch, okay.
All right. Dust mask or something, and glasses. we got her cut out, and you can see, I try not to overrun. And because the frame won't cover it if I come in and try to get that whole corner there. So I come back and I back cut it. Right there's a wire.
Oh, that's nice.
That'll get you every time.
That wire.
That wire. That you know, it pops off a whole chunk here. So back cut every corner. Wire.
Can see it.
You can see where if I'd have came in and tried to pry this off or cut, particularly with the Sawzall, I'd have caught that wire and life would have sucked from there on out. And I come in and I make sure that wire is pushed in, and we have the same thing here. There again, I don't want my saw to grab that wire. And we get that one in there. Okay. What I'm doing now is just double checking. You can't be in a rush on this. I don't have any other way to say it. Double check it. Make sure you know where all the wires are. I think we'll pause here for a minute, get a drink of water, because I want to clean this up and blow this off before I open this up. So let's go ahead and do that. Pull this off. You don't have to, but it's one less cutting surface that I have to worry about cutting with the blade, and it also gives me a really clean palette. So either one way or the other on that, it doesn't matter, but this way I have a clean palette. All right, it's gonna get real dusty. There again, take your time on this.
Don't overcut those edges, those corners too, because you'll hit that.
And be careful, don't let this get away from you and suck you in, because it will punk a hole in the drywall. Ask me how I know. Pop.
Little pop on that one.
Pop.
Looks like the trim will cover that one up, but if
Yeah.
it didn't, you can always just keep those little
Yeah,
pieces,
keep them and glue them in.
glue them right back in there.
Yep. Drilled right there. That weakened that. And all it took was just a little touch.
Put it in to blow it off.
Yep, I'm gonna blow this off one more time, since I got the blower and it's better than sweeping. And then we're gonna put the tunnel together and fit it. I've forgotten the roll on, because now they used to send full carpet. So I line the entire inside of the frame. Well, I can't do it with this, and I have a hard time of not doing it because I feel it doesn't look
That's
finished.
Good. Yeah.
I've forgotten my roll, and I keep these, and I've had to put these together to clean it up, because the difference between a fully lined one and the customer always comments, oh, it's got carpet, it looks awesome. All this I trash, I don't have any use for. I'll occasionally leave this for the customer, even though this is instructions on how to install it. It gives the customer a name of the door, even though it says it on the top.
What do you use?
Just these nuts and bolts right here.
Okay.
The only part that they send me that I use.
Because otherwise you use your own screws.
Yeah,
okay. Self-tappers,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, once I get this together, we're going to use self-tappers, and we're going to use rivets. Whether these boxes are the greatest thing in the world, whether they're DeWalt, Milwaukee, I've got all my stuff right where I need it. I use that as a workbench. It just works out really well. When you're doing a critical measurement cut, and I mean, we love our customers and they like to talk, you need to focus. And even if you have to go, hang on, let me get this, because it's your fault, not theirs. 3/16" metal bit, and then using the 3/16" short rivets. Okay, so put that right there. Make sure your screws are to the top, because if you accidentally, I'm not going to tell you how I know this, do it this way, when you go to make your cut, now you cut your nuts and bolts off. So, yeah. So make sure these are to the top, because that's what helps give you the rigidity on this side, plus going into the frame. So what I do is I reach in, and I'm not trying to be perfect. There's a pre-drill hold there. I'm just trying to, if I hit it, I hit it. If I don't, but I want to be on the frame. Just like so. On both sides, and then this is all that's sticking out on the inside, and the bottom we're going to cover with carpet. So, and the same thing, and now, even though that's flush, I'm going to come in and use self-tapping screws here, and then of course here, and here, because if you tried to rivet this, let's say we had a repair, or which is not difficult, you can drill out those to get it apart, but that way the door. And we've done quite a few to where we've done a small door and had to go to a large door. So we've done that quite a bit. Okay, so. Let's find out what's holding us up. This is what I mean about it costs me a little bit more work.
That one little screw right there.
But I don't want a large gaping hole. So maybe here. Now we can go through. That way I have enough room to be able to level and shift, and I don't have a huge hole. So I'm gonna have to fix this right there. We'll tape that, caulk that, and that'll be good, because they're doing this siding right here. A lot of times they don't get good adhesion, and you get a pop. It's just part of it. And the same thing when I screw this down, sometimes, well, more than sometimes, drywallers don't send that screw all the way down, and the drywall's not up against the stud, or you'll get a nail pop. It's just part of it. So I reach in, make sure that I'm flush to the drywall. I am. Yeah, you can measure it then take it and cut it. I'd prefer to do this because I can promise you nothing's square here. So now I have an actual representation of what my cut needs to be.
So are you going on the inside of that
On the
line?
inside.
So inside of that line.
Yep.
So you kind of want to be, what, a 16?
Yeah, right in there. 16 is fine.
Yeah.
Right in there. Nothing more than a quarter.
Nothing.
Because they're nested together. It'll cover it. But you just, I know that I was pretty tight in there. And the fact that I'm not going to have a lot of give on that drywall or the stucco, I can be pretty close to the line.
The last thing you want, though, is too much of that tunnel sticking out.
Yeah, well, that's the worst thing because now you can't clamp it together and it's going to rock in there.
And no amount of caulk is going to hold it in place.
I'm using the tunnel and the two outside and inside as part of the structure to pull that and really tighten it up. Then I'm going to caulk it, which is basically, in a situation like that, the caulking is more of a glue than it is anything else because it's not going to get weathered. Early on, I didn't always caulk the inside because it just looked nice. It didn't need it. But I went back and did a flap replacement, and what I found was it moving.
Okay.
So, and that had only been like 2 years on the flap replacement. From that day forward, I've caulked every inside. Just that added security. I use 3/4 inch. You can get away with a 1/2 inch, but I find the 3/4, the lathing screws, works better because when you start to drill, it's going to push the inside of the tunnel away, and this helps drive it. Well, a lot of times with a 1/2 inch, it's really difficult. So, and there again, it's not coming out with these because it's going to hit. It's actually going to drill into that wood as well. So it's actually helping.
Okay, go ahead.
Make sure your top is up. Another, ask me how I know.
Don't put it in upside down.
Yeah, because it really sucks.
It really sucks.
It really sucks.
Especially after you caulked it and everything and
That's
realized
the
it.
problem. I had 3 doors to do that day, and I let myself get in a hurry. And I used to carry caulk and everything in the outside box. Now I don't. I do one at a time. I keep all the caulk and everything in the one that red box. Had it all caulked, walked inside, and it's upside down. All right, so now we fit this guy in. Okay, so what I was doing is before preparing the carpet, I wanted to make sure on that pop out that it covered it. It did. So we're good to go. All right, so now
It moved a little bit.
yeah.
That's pretty plumb.
That looks good. Now I'm going to go in and measure, check the inside as well. Started doing just here in the last year. I used to grab the outside here, and when I clamped it, if I used too much force, this would actually squeeze this and make
bend
getting
it
the
in.
cover in and out a real pain. So this is where I've gone to now, and I don't have that issue. Side covers will always be the biggest pain because you have to be absolutely square getting that in. Okay, and that's square now. Okay, if it's real close to the baseboard, I can promise you this baseboard's not level. I will split the difference. I'm never going to make my job that far off to match somebody else's, but I try to make it look like, because my job's square, theirs is not, and now it looks unsquare. So a lot of
Right.
you have to fudge
Kind of
that.
fudge it that
Yeah.
that plumbness a little bit, just so it doesn't look bad.
Now that we've got this pretty much where we want it, I'm gonna go ahead and clamp her down. I'm not getting excessive here. It's just not going anywhere.
Those are those self-tappers. That's the inside frame.
That's the inside. And now the last one we've got is the one up top. And then just reach up in there, like I said, find the pre-drill. And there again, it's not critical. You can just jam on in. That is it.
Nice, looks beautiful.
Okay. And the caulk, I've now gone to the caulk not only as a price because they're equal, and there again I'm just using Alex Plus because it's even still trying to get it off and replace the carpet, you're going to have a scraper. So this is what I use, and that way my gun's loaded up to do that, and then caulk on the inside. And I use a different caulk on the outside. Okay, so I'm just going to come in. And I do run a seal just on that inside. And I leave the edges open in case there did get any water for some odd reason that it would be able to drain. And same thing here. And then I'm just gonna do a little zigzag here. Right here. Run along the frame. Come up to the other side and do the same. Do my seal. And that just helps doing a little bit caulk there, just helps keep any weather out, you know. So I roll my carpet up, backwards of course. Right there, try it locked in at the top and roll her down. Roll her over, get that there, varnish that in. Over the other side. And right there it goes. I'm a couple inches short on that one.
Which is okay because you got it on the top.
Because that's for a different door. And what I would recommend doing is, I should listen to my own recommendations, is writing the size of the carpet down somewhere, your length. Your length will never change. Your depth, your width will always change. Just a better caulk. We're gonna finish up with the outside. For the outside, I use Dynaflex 230. I really like it. And then I also use it in the clear. I prefer this than I do silicone.
Okay.
Because the silicone tends to yellow really bad, and the fact that you can't paint it. For everything, I use it to clean my hands, walls, windows, floors. My wife now uses it so much I buy it by the case. Costco, 5 cans, $8. So, really good stuff.
Still put it in your coffee too, huh?
Yeah, my coffee as well.
That's how much he loves it.
That's it. Good stuff. There's no way to get them absolutely perfect. They come marked up from the factory or in the roll. This, and I generally tell the customer, this is the cleanest you'll ever see it anyway, so.
That's it.
Right in there. Okay, so now all we got to do is caulk. And again, we're going to use my outside caulk. That one's, and then the clear on the outside. No matter where you put something, it's going to be in your way. No matter how many times you move it. And the reason I wet it, it makes for a nicer caulk job. Until you do that. Paper towels are your friend. I literally buy these by the cases. That's why you see the tape up here. Roll that around, flip that over, and this will literally keep that for months.
You have a whole roll of your own carpet, and that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because they
Home Depot,
don't, Security Boss isn't sending the full
Anymore.
wraps anymore, and we should wrap every single
And
one.
doing just the bottom, in my opinion, makes it look like an unfinished job. Do at someone else's house what you would do at your own. You know, makes your decisions pretty simple. Because I don't have to try to hide anything, and it'll just make for a nice job. The reason I tape it is I'm generally pretty liberal with the caulk, particularly on lap siding, so I can make a mess and pull the tape. It also gives me very nice trim line. Right in there, so I tend to always tape. That's each individual their own. And as you can see, I've got a lot of waste, but I put it on. I'm just trying to be scrimpy here. Not the place to scrimp. This car starts out white but dries clear.
Wow, that looks good.
Just like that.
Looks
There's
great.
no way. You could do it without taping it, and because the clear will blend in, This just makes a really nice clean line.
Yeah, that looks great.
And so that's why I do it. And it's all about when I'm finished and, go to the customer for the payment.
And that will dry clear, so.
Yeah, that will dry clear. Even if it didn't, even if it was white, it still
Yeah, it still looks good.
Still looks good.